Thank you for joining us, Mr. Meliso.
Yeah.
Let's start with the first question, how we can see the status of media in Ethiopia.
The issue of journalism and professionalism in Ethiopia is, we should say, at embryonic stage, in the sense that, even though we have a history of modern journalism, which is a century old, our professional history is a very short-lived one. This is because we were not, having a well-established journalism school until very recently, maybe 2 decades ago or 2 decades and a half ago. So when you study, when you overview the professional status of the journalism in Ethiopia, it has a lot of, shortcomings and shortfalls, you can say, for the reason that, first of all, due to the practitioners, in the sense that those practicing journalism were not, trained to be journalists, first of all, because many of them, due to the reason I mentioned earlier, the absence of journalism schools in the country, were limited practitioners who were foreign educated, and you also have some people who were doing journalism out of, interest. They were just zealous to journalism. Of course, the media could surely contribute to the transition to democracy. And first of all, I agree with you that there is a change within our country, a change to the better. Journalism itself is one of the entities which is enjoying the change, in my opinion, for the reason that, the space, the media landscape or the mediascape in the country is somehow widening due to, from the science and the implications we've been witnessing especially in the last 8 months after the coming of the new Prime Minister, His Excellency Prime Minister Abiy. There is a change in the landscape of journalism, and as well change in the country, as there are, as you mentioned, widening of political space, in the sense that, journalists which were in exile, some who were labeled as terrorist groups are, coming home, and we are also now enjoying dissident views, a kind of opposition views which were not allowed within the practice of our journalism. So, in this sense, the media is now contributing, in the sense that those views which were suppressed, those views which were not given a space earlier, now are getting a space in the conventional media, including the so-called government-owned media. So the media, in one way or the other, I feel that is contributing to the change.
The media and their daily reporters, is it really they are balancing?
The transition, the transition, we are facing some challenges, conflicts, intra and inter-ethnic conflicts in some parts of the country. And in that case, the media should play its role, and one of the roles, in my opinion, the media should play is doing and practicing peace journalism, in the sense that the media should not take any side. They should try, to cover the conflict in a way that it can be solved in bringing a kind of win-win situation for all parties which are actually pro-change. I'm not referring to those who are against the change. So peace journalism is one thing the media should directly, contribute at this very important juncture.
The international media is covering more interesting stories about Ethiopia, but reverse media in Ethiopia, they are focusing on most very silly issues that create conflicts. What should be done in this regard?
The media can play their peace stabilizing role, peace building role, But, I think this is a lack of focus, in my opinion. The media in Ethiopia, as you know, are scarce resources. 400 million media, we have a million people, we have very few media. Thanks to the change, we have now maybe nearly a dozen, networks, television networks. And those networks should focus, in my opinion, on the larger public, which is really waiting for them to serve it. So I think the priority should be on how to, calm down conflicts which are, happening somewhere, rather than escalating them, by setting agenda. For this, I think the limitation, in my opinion, is professional limitation. I'm not sure. I don't have research evidence, but I can judge that most of the media in Ethiopia lack the professionalism which peace journalism requires, and we should actually promote peace journalism within the country at this very important time. But what you see is the private networks. Now they are free, and when you are free, as a free bird, you would like to fly wherever you want. And that may be by itself not a problem, but at the end of the day, you should be reminded that there is somebody to judge you. The public is actually a wise judge. The media, in the traditional sense, as you know, they have 3 or 4 major functions. That is, one is educating the public, informing the public, and entertaining the public. When you are educating, as you are, feeding your child or your companion, kind of diverse food for health, you need to serve on the menu different, varieties. The one you mentioned, the issue of social, political, economic, and whatever, diverse issues. So as you said, I think both of the media, both the government and the private media, need to improve themselves in terms of, covering issues properly, not to escalate conflicts which are arising here and there due to artificial issues.
Most of media and journalism experts argue that the social media can create agendas for the mainstream media in Ethiopia. Is it really true?
If the media is, playing its role in a professional manner and serving the public, telling the fact, informing the public ahead, because now I feel that I can tell you the last 8 months the media landscape is better, wider, and the media should go, identify, set agenda, listen the agenda of the public, then inform the public, educate the public, then be a very competent alternative, rather than you just gatekeeping a lot of ideas which were happening, which was happening prior to the reform in Ethiopia 8 months ago. So in that case, one way is the media should perform professionally. At the same time, the social media issue, and hate speech is not confined to Ethiopia. It's not endemic to Ethiopia. It is, the problem of the world. And in the sense that the world now is, trying to cater for a mechanism that they can actually curb or minimize at least the impact of hate speech. You can cite the example of Germany, which they introduced a very interesting law. I mean, interesting in the sense that, anybody with a motive of hate speech against a certain group, against a certain individual, based on a scandal rather than not based on fact, then that person, that entity should be accountable. I think, to my knowledge, the Ethiopian government now is also drafting a bill, which is actually for the social media, because, as you mentioned, hate speech, hate-mongerism in our country has become a problem, especially through Facebook and other social media, and that really needs a solution. And I feel such a move is very important, and I commend the government for thinking about that.
So did you believe that it can be regulated?
Well, to some extent, yes. But the most important issue at the end of the day is the consumer, in my opinion. In the West, they have what they call, especially in the US and some European countries, they have what they call media literacy education. They teach even children from starting from primary school. They educate, the public to be a healthy consumer. You don't consume everything, You choose actually for your health. And in order to do that, the public should be, an informed consumer. And again, back to your business it is the media which can educate the public, which can inform the public. Media literacy can happen through the media as well, not only through, formal primary schools, because you don't get everybody in a school. Some people are out of school. Still, we are lucky in our country. A significant part of the population is still in a school, be it primary or higher level. We should think of that, media literacy education should be the future, in my opinion. But as you mentioned, the mainstream media are socially accountable, socially responsible. When they scoop, they should scoop by, double checking their facts. It's not only selling the news or being the first to, herald a certain news, inform a certain news, but fact checking and checking is very important. So I think two important things when I summarize your question. That is, one, the media should play its expected role in informing and educating the public. And then two, we should also develop a mechanism for media literacy within the country so that the general public can be a healthy consumer in using the social media. But one important thing at the bottom line is, when the media is serving its role and when the political space is widening and when the scope of freedom is widening within a certain country, what is on the social media will be a social issue only.
A report of CPJ said that no journalists in Ethiopia by reporting or writing, no Ethiopian journalists in prison. What it indicates, what kind of implication it has for us as a country? That
the first time in our history, at least, since these media watch groups were monitoring, the world media scape or media landscape, it may be the first time that we are, praised for something that we have done for journalism. Because as you might imagine and as you might well know, prior to 8 months or maybe some years ago, a couple of years ago, Ethiopia has been a very hard place for a journalist to practice journalism, even to live, because there were many who were actually imprisoned because of what they have written or because of what they have spoken. Now, in my opinion, the dawn is coming, and I'm seeing a big glimmer of hope in terms of journalism, because it is the first time that we don't have any journalist in prison because of what they have written or because of what they have spoken. And more importantly, we are chosen out of maybe 180 countries in the world or above countries in the world to host the World Press Freedom Day, which is really, unthinkable.
What the challenges and opportunities may come with this hosting this day for Ethiopians?
The challenge and the opportunity is clear. When freedom is coming, it comes with burden, with a social burden and a social responsibility, in my opinion. Now, if journalism is enjoying the freedom, it should enjoy responsibly. I am an advocate of the Aristotelian golden mean principle, as I told you earlier, freedom has a limit, and the responsibility of the media is, doing journalism, professional journalism, and it should not, fall a prey to scandal journalism. That is a challenge when, freedom is coming, you'd like to marshal your own cause. But always the journalist, the professional journalist at least, should be reminded that it is accountabilities to the public. So now I think Ethiopian journalism has a responsibility to widen the space for freedom of expression, which is now, kind of opening. Freedom is not given. Freedom is something that you daily fight for. So journalism should play its role in terms of, perpetuating the existing freedom, widening the existing freedom, and using it for the interest of the public.